Hi, Chef David Willems here at Sullivan University, and today we're going to do gluten-free. Gluten-free is better for you in every way. You're going to lose weight, you're going to feel better, you're going to be stronger, you're going to grow taller. Everything about you is going to be better. You're going to work with sexier people, you're going to live better lives. That's a damn lie. None of that's true.
Sounds like Dr.
Gluten-free is not necessarily better. It is for who it's for. It's not for everybody. You know, the only reason gluten-free is better is because you're not eating as many jelly donuts and cookies, which are probably not gluten-free, though it's getting to the point now where there are gluten-free jelly donuts and cookies, and that's when people are really going to realize that it's not better. So we're going to make some gluten-free banana nut muffins. This is the final leg in your practical exam, so you're going to have this under your belt. First thing I'm going to start out with is my muffin pan. We like to use the small one. You can do these as large, you can do them as small, either way. Now what I want to show you a little bit of the trick, when you're putting papers in muffin pans, always deposit them from the back, and they'll drop right off into the pan. Every now and then you'll get that radical one that'll drop too. If they do, just pick it up and separate it out. But you can sit there and deposit those off the back all day long. If you're picking them out of the top, you're kind of trying to separate them. You're a lot faster doing that, and typically you're going to do more than a dozen. Okay, so get your pan set up. I've got my green scoop all ready to go. This is what I'm going to use. I forget what number this is, but if I look here on the sweep, it says it's the number 12. Okay, so I've got my mashed banana. These were good bananas. They're in pretty good shape. They're all crushed up, so thank you to whoever got those for me, did that for me. You could take your whisk and mash them up. I usually put them in a bag and mash them a little and then shake them down or something like that. Crush them with your fingers. We're gonna go ahead and put all of our liquids together in here. What this is gonna be is the muffin method. This is a mixing method for quick breads. Pretty easy. Oh shoot, that is the wrong vanilla. We should use the dark vanilla. The light vanilla is not gluten-free. So we want to make sure you guys want to switch out. Okay, I want you to use the dark vanilla because I'll collect them if you don't want your muffins, and we'll give them to somebody like Chef Spenlove who can give them to his daughter. But I can't give mine to her now because that is not gluten-free. The grain that's used to make the alcohol for that is wheat. So it has gluten in it now. So they're not purely gluten-free. So those are, and I'm kind of glad we did that because those are the things you want to look for. Those are the very minimal things that can cause that change. Now my eggs, I want to bust those up just a little bit before I put them in. And I do like a whip for doing this. The wires help incorporate things well. So get those broken up so I don't spend a whole lot of time busting up my bananas. I do want some chunks of banana in there too. I like that in a banana bread or a banana muffin, whether it's gluten-free or not. Has some rather larger chunks. So now I've got a nice even incorporation of all of my liquids. I'm gonna add my dry, and I'll do that right on top here. With a small formula like this, it's easy enough just to incorporate it by hand. If this were a much bigger, whoa, ta-da! If this were a much bigger formula, I would want to use a machine because you're just going to be a lot more efficient with a mixer. Now I'm definitely going to sift these, and I'm going to go through the process of using the wire mesh because we've got baking soda in there, and that baking soda is going to have lumps. So I want to be careful, run that through, and notice too that I'm depositing my dry on top of my wet. I like to do that because the wet will lubricate the dry. If you put the dry on the bottom, the wet will stick the dry to the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to switch to my rubber spatula because I can move pretty rapidly with that. And I'm just going to stir those together. Now, when we talk about gluten-bearing muffins, one of the issues, oh, I didn't get nuts, did I? Oh, do I have nuts? One of the issues with the gluten-bearing muffins is if you overmix, you're gonna have tunneling. That's a beautiful thing about gluten-free. There's no such thing. So I can, that's all right, don't worry about it. I'll leave them out this time.
You can mix it all day and it won't get tunneling.
Yeah, you won't get tunneling. You'll dry out, ultimately through evaporation, but that would take a long time.
Why wouldn't it tunnel though?
Huh? Because that's what tunneling is. It's the development of gluten in the muffin batter that creates the little passages and the little unevenness in the top. And since we don't have that here, it's not a problem. So there we go. We've got it all nice and evenly blended. No dry. So we're gonna go ahead and deposit that into our muffin papers. Take one full scoop and hold it above, about 3/4 of a scoop I think will do. Yeah, it's a good little muffin. It's got great flavor. It's nice and sweet. It's not sugar-free by any stretch of the imagination. And if you use the right vanilla, it's a lovely gluten-free muffin. You want to deposit them all evenly. I'd like a little smaller scoop, but unfortunately, well, I have a yellow scoop. I think it's a number 10 scoop. That's my good cupcake scoop. I used to use that back at the bakery to scoop cupcakes because it was one and done. So a little white cake, a little chocolate cake. This will make 6 large muffins or 12 small muffins. I'm gonna have a little chip-in work to do. I can chip that in. What was the question?
Well, I said we should have made the 6 large.
Well, the small are nice because they bake faster. And that's one of the things that chef instructors have started to share with one another. You know, we have problems. Chef Straw used to talk about that, how it was hard for students to get their muffins to bake. And it's true, you'll wait until the last second to put your muffins in and then they won't bake. So if you do the small muffins, they will. We want to make sure we use all that batter. These gluten-free mixes, not mixes, but these formulas are expensive because the gluten-free flours, there are relatively few producers out there. As there become more and more, they'll go a little bit, get a little cheaper. All right, let me tighten this up a little bit. Huh?
Supply and demand.
Right. So now we've got our toppings in here for our streusel. For any streusel, whether it's gluten-free or not, this is a gluten-free streusel using a gluten-free flour blend. If you look at the package that is attached to the container, you'll notice that it's rice flour, I think soybean flour, there's a couple other, and there's xanthan gum added to it, and that just mimics the gluten structure that you would want for a muffin. There are different gluten flour blends that will give different outcomes. Now for this streusel, all I'm doing is making pie dough. I'm making pie dough until there's no fat left. So you're just cutting the fat into the dry and the sugar. This is an important step. Whenever you're doing muffin method muffins, if you don't do this, you get flat tops. You won't have a nice even incorporation. Now there's a point where you can overdo it as well. I would like the nuts in here if you've got them in your muffins. I want them on the muffins too. That's a selling feature. And you want to stop right about there. If you go too far, this will come together into kind of a beurre manet consistency. And if it does that, we can push it through wire mesh. But we want it nice and even, no chunks of butter, and I want it crumbly. Now, I want to be careful to make sure that I get a little bit of this on top of each one. The reason that this is important is that it keeps the heat from setting the structure on the top of the muffin too soon, causing your muffin to flatten out. You can put a little steam in the oven. If your oven is set up for steam, you can run a little steam in the oven to do the same thing, help keep that top moist for a little while. But the streusel really does a nice job. Got a few big chunks of butter in there. The streusel does a really nice job of keeping that top from setting structure too soon. Okay, so once you get that all evenly distributed, these can go in the oven, 350 degrees, until when?
They're done.
When is that? Okay, so we got one thing. We see the color. Anything else? What should we look for? And touch. Huh?
Touch it.
And? So we get some structure. Should it be firm? Should it be rubbery? Should it be tough when we touch it?
No.
Okay, because we got carryover bake. So you want it just a little bit light, but not too much, okay? So that's our gluten-free banana nut muffin. We'll come back together when these are done, and we'll cut them. I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at how good they are.